Hello everyone, my name is Igor. Welcome to my channel. So in this video we're going to be installing the PBM steering rack relocation kit on my Nissan 350Z. Here is what I got from the PBM. So this is one of the mounting points for the rack itself. This is the steering shaft extender, and there is also some mounting brackets for the rack itself and the plate, which we're gonna have to weld into my existing subframe. So first thing first, I got the car already jacked up, and I'm gonna have to drop the subframe in order to cut it the way the PBM telling us to, and then we're gonna be welding this plate onto the subframe, so stay tuned. So we are underneath the car right now. So what we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to drop this brace first. There is a couple of bolts and nuts across it, very simple, and then we're gonna have to drop the subframe itself, but before we do that, since the engine sits on it, we're gonna have to either support the engine, maybe with like a piece of wood underneath the oil pan and jack, or maybe I'll use the special device you can get and I'll hang it from the top. But regardless, I'm gonna be dropping this bracket first, and then we're gonna figure out how I'm gonna support the engine in order to drop the subframe, so stay tuned. Alright, so I've removed this bracket over here. Next, I guess I'm gonna remove the steering rack from the subframe, and then I'm gonna try to figure out how I'm gonna support the engine in order to drop the subframe. Alright, so this is how I've supported an engine. I used this piece of wood and I've jacked up the car, and I've pretty much lowered the car on this jack stand with the piece of wood underneath the oil pan, but I also have jack stands holding the car, so looks pretty safe to me. But I would probably put some wheels on the sides of the car just in case if anything goes wrong, so I'm not getting crashed by the car. All right, so I just pulled the subframe out of the car. Like I showed you earlier, I have an engine supported by this jack stand and a piece of wood underneath the oil pan. I had to remove the bolt for the nuts for the sway bars and bolt for the struts. And yeah, so right now I'm gonna see what needs to be cut, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. Okay, so now the important part. We're gonna have to cut the subframe in order to make space for the relocation plate. So I went to the PBM. Luckily, they're just 5 minutes away from where I'm at right now, and they've helped me mark the lines where I should cut. So it's gonna go across like this. So pretty much plate is gonna be flat with this surface right here. Just gonna go all across the subframe over there. And on the bottom, it's gonna go like this, go across, then they go in here, cut through here, and like this. So yeah, that's pretty much what needs to be cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right now. Alright, so subframe is finally cut. I've cleaned up the edges so we can weld to it. Here is how the plate is sitting on here. Pretty tight fit. I'm kind of happy about that. Looks like I've cut a little bit too much over here, but the gap is not too big. We would be able to weld it up. And yeah, so apparently this is how it's supposed to be. Alright, so here is the welded plate onto the subframe. Looks good, even considering that I've had the huge gaps over here. Alex did a good job. It's all welded up. Right now I'm gonna let it cool down a little. I'm gonna clean it up and spray paint it. And I'm gonna start assembling it. So I quickly spray painted it. Looks good. And I've put this stuff on just to see how it's gonna go. Everything looks straightforward, so yep. Gonna start putting it in. So also, since PBM has their own solid bushings, you have to remove the OEM bushings from your rack, but it's pretty easy to do. I just hammered it out on the car. It was pretty simple, so yeah, did that. Alrighty guys, quick little update. I have everything assembled back. So here is the rack, steering rack mounted to the subframe itself. On this side, as you can see, you mount this kind of mount onto the subframe, and then you use two clamps provided with the PBM relocation kit. On this side, I removed, as you've seen earlier, the bushings, the OEM bushings, and I replaced them with the solid ones. And there is a plate which goes in between the subframe and the rack itself, and you just bolt it on. I had to replace this extender over here to the longer one, since the one I had was a little too short. And before, I used to run the offset rack spacers, and right now I switched back to the regular spacer. So on the driver's side, there is just a little washer which will allow the rack to go in just that much farther. And on this side it's the spacer here, so it's gonna allow for rack to go in this much farther. And also, because they're uneven on both sides, I had to recenter the rack. And another piece, I don't remember if I mentioned, when you relocate the rack, you have to use the steering shaft extender, because if you won't use it, this joint will barely go on to the steering rack, and there is a chance that it will slip out. You don't want to lose your steering while driving, so you use this steering shaft extender. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. The last thing I have to do, since I've messed with the spacers and stuff, I'm gonna have to align the car. Right now I'm gonna eyeball it real quick just so I can get it to the alignment rack, and then I will do the proper alignment. DIY top weights. So this is it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned.